February 10th. Friday, February 10th, 2023. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the January 13th, 2023 MSRAC regular meeting. Do we have any motions regarding the minutes?
I actually haven't seen them.
Me neither.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't think I had them attached with the agenda. They're on the town's website, but why don't we just postpone this then till next month? And
Okay.
I'll
Good idea.
include both copies of both minutes with the agenda next month.
Okay.
Just so all you guys know, I post the minutes of the meetings the same day we have them. So they are always on, I mean, unless for some reason I specifically can't, they are always on the website the day we have the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and they
Okay,
are
so-
there now. I printed them out up here.
I didn't realize
It's a-
that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. So,
Well, that's okay. Well, we can postpone that till next month. So then the next item is item 3, correspondence. Anything new, Tara?
Well, nothing unrelated to agenda items, I would say, so.
Okay. Then moving on to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens joining you in person there?
Well, Joe, but I'm guessing that he's here because you asked him to comment on something specific.
Yes, he's here to get the update on the Main Street reconstruction project, I assume.
Okay, very good.
So then let's move right into that. Number 5, committee business, Main Street reconstruction. We have Yu Yang here in the meeting with us. You know, Freeman's working on the design and the survey. So if you want to give us an update. I think you must be on mute. You're on mute.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yang Lin. I'm with Freeman Companies. I'm the project manager for the Main Street reconstruction project. Can I share my screen?
Oh, yeah, let me, you're all set.
Thanks. Can everybody see the screen?
It's coming up.
Yes.
yes.
All right, good.
Yes.
So I hope to get this done probably like 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm gonna talk about existing conditions and then talk about proposed improvements, talk about the schedule, funding, and then the roughly project cost. So what you see right now is actually an aerial photo of the project. The project start on the this aerial view is actually, the north is actually on your right. Main Street is on the top. And then you have French River at the bottom, and then there's a railroad going on at the bottom as well. The library is right at this corner here. So what you're seeing is the yellow is actually where the existing sidewalk is. So the project started from the southern end of the intersection of Route 12 with Main Street, and the roadway part ends at the northern connection of Route 12. But subsequently, the town asked us to extend the sidewalk approximately about 500 feet. So our sidewalk project limit is slightly different than the roadway project limits.
And is that the actual terminus of the existing sidewalk, or did we guess wrong?
That's the exact terminus of the existing sidewalk, yes.
Okay, good.
So before I move on to the proposed improvement, I just want to emphasize everything that you're seeing right now is just preliminary. Nothing is set in stone yet. So If you have any comments or suggestions, please provide us with your suggestions. We will make the changes necessary.
Actually, Yu Yang, I think we might have forgotten to let you know that, so that Joe, who's there in person, is our new Public Works Director.
Yes,
So he's there in person with Tier. I just wasn't sure you knew what his role was.
absolutely. I look forward to meeting and collaborate with Joe for this project.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to propose condition. So let me bring up the. Okay. So for this project, what we have done so far is we already conduct geotech investigations. Probably a week ago, the boring was done, and our geotech engineer analyzed the boring data and then recommend a full depth is required for the road. So based on the DOT design guideline, all the road reconstructed need to meet the 20 life service life. And our proposed composition for the road is actually 6 inch of, this is actually the full depth construction configuration. So we'll be replacing 6 inch of asphalt with 6 inch of process aggregate and 6 inch of subbase. Totally 18 inch of the road will be replaced. This composition is based on the ADT, which is average daily vehicle traffic volumes, the classification of the road, which is actually a local road maintained by the town, and then the location where we are northeast. So 18 inch will prevent frost for any damage to the road. So this is based on the DOT guideline and then based on our geotech investigation. The road will be replaced, full depth replace is recommended here. Now getting into the a little bit closer view of the road here, the project is actually replacing the road and then also upgrade the sidewalk to ADA compliance. So what you're seeing in yellow is where the new sidewalk that we're proposing. On this end, there's a bridge which is not included as part of the project. So anything up to the bridge will be replaced with new full depth pavements, and then the sidewalk what you're seeing here will be replaced. And then at the beginning of the project, I think the town says all the work should be within the right of way. I just want to point out at this church location, the existing sidewalk is actually going beyond the right of way. So in order to replace that, we probably will need an easement. Other than that, we're trying to replace the sidewalk at its current locations. And then as part of the improvements, we're also gonna look into the drainage to see if it's outdated. If it's outdated, we also, since we opened the road already, we're gonna replace the drainage system as well, which means that all the drainage top, the catch basin itself, and the connecting pipe will be replaced. Now I want to jump into the funding source. This job will be applying for LASEP funding. LASEP is actually stand for Local Transportation Capital Improvement Program, which is a Connecticut program. The cost of the construction will be 100% reimbursed by the state. And this application will be submitted to NETCOG, which is Northeastern Connecticut Council of Government. We're once the preliminary engineering is done, we'll prepare a package, which include the cost estimate, a preliminary design plans, and then all the necessary forms fill out for town to submit to the NECOC. And then once we're on their agenda, the schedule is we're anticipating probably last application going in by the end of February. Right now, we're in the preliminary design phase, looking to have the bid package ready in the winter, and then hopefully construction starts spring 2024. And right now the preliminary construction cost we have is about $3.3 million.
Now, I thought the lot SIP program topped out at 3 million.
Yeah, that's generally, they like to see it under 3 million, but if it's slightly over and you have a good reason, they will accept that. The major cost for this project is the drainage. If we're trying to replace all the drainage, that's probably preliminary look, it's probably more than $500,000. So I'm trying to be selective here. Not going for depths, but when we are doing a little bit more investigation, we're gonna replace the drainage that's currently in really bad shape.
And you, Young, as you're preparing that lot SIP, is there any piece of that that you need me to take? I seem to recall that there were narrative elements in that draft.
Right.
Because when we did the last one, it was me and Janet with some assistance from, I can't remember if they were already CHA at that point, but whatever they were at that point. But we essentially prepared it locally. And
Right.
yeah, and I do remember that there was some narrative in there.
Yeah, we will put together the package for you to review. All I need from the town is a couple forms that need to be signed by the first selectman, and then I think we need concurrence from the NECOC, and then the rest of the package I'll take care of it on my end.
Okie dokie.
Regarding the assessment of the drainage, Yang, are you guys just gonna like individually assess each catch basin? I mean, are you gonna go on an inspection tour that maybe Joe could go along with, or how are you going to do that?
Right now, just popping the to see what we can. Sometimes we just put in use our phone and then a sticks to see the conditions. If you have plans that's available, which I don't believe you do,
No.
sometimes we will just using the age of the drainage structure. If it's not currently a reinforced concrete pipe, we would definitely recommend replacing those with the reinforced concrete pipes. And then I know the surveyor know that some of the pipes are not the current type. It's like a half pipe at the bottom of the catch basin. Catch basin doesn't have the proper sump. So those are the structure we'll recommend replacing. We did notice there's by School Street, there's actually a box cover. I can show you this.
Right by the library.
Yeah, that is the structure that we don't want to touch, because that
Is fairly new. I think that was under when they did the construction of the library itself, that was, I believe, I wasn't here, but I believe by looking at it and in the age of it, I'm guessing when they did the library, that's when they implemented that.
So just
yeah, that
to
would be great.
a reminder, that library is over 25 years old. So when we're saying fairly new,
Fairly new.
that's
Well, that's compared to the other ones, because the other ones are fairly new to maybe like Dick Van Dyke or something like that. Stuff is ancient.
Yeah, Yeah, didn't, I don't know whether Joe, it was you or Ken who said that those catch basins on Main Street are like the original hand-built ones, like you yanked, they probably have like no sumps, cracks in the mortar, bad pipes,
Right.
Yeah, they're all block built and the tops of them, the way they were designed, they have the casting tops on them. We don't use casting, we haven't used casting tops in a long time, so those are pretty old.
Yeah, I think at the very minimum, all the drainage structure will be replaced. It's just those connecting pipes. If it's old, we'll try to replace them, and then the cross cover, we're trying to leave it if possible. And then based on what
Okay.
you said, the condition is good, so that will help us keep the budget probably around $3 million.
Yeah, I don't know if it probably doesn't make a difference for your traffic calculations, but St. Joseph's School is, well, it's coming up for approval this month at Planning and Zoning for conversion to 40 single bed and efficiency apartments.
Right.
So that little bump in neighborhood traffic will be within the next year or so.
And that shouldn't affect, I mean, the payment design is over designed already, so
Okay.
a little bit of increase of the traffic shouldn't be a problem.
The other thought about the drainage that actually I was talking with Joe and Amy St. Ange with is if, you know, with the MS4 stormwater and everything, that this is right in a sensitive area. And I'm not familiar with exactly how those pipes discharge, but if they're going like straight into the river and there's any town-owned property that they could get some overland flow or water quality swales to, you know, help address the town's mandate to disconnect drainage and clean up the water before it gets to the river.
I'm pretty sure that there is a small town-owned
Right after the
parcel right
restaurant.
here. Is it after the restaurant?
No, you were on the correct side.
Yeah,
That's the
okay.
top side of the restaurant on
Yeah.
on the river side. There is,
It's this, I
there is a
think.
section of sidewalk there that is actually owned by the town. I don't know if it's the extent of the lot. I don't remember what it is. I never really paid attention to it. But maybe that's an area where we could put an area, a dry well type, or a pond situation, leaching pond, so we wouldn't be dumping directly to river.
I'm pretty sure it's one of these two lots here. I don't know if the people in the Zoom room can see my cursor. And it's really steep here. I mean, it's short, but it's steep. So that's just something to keep in mind. And this is the back of this commercial parking lot. But those are the town-owned parcels. And then, of course, 65 Main is a town-owned parcel over here somewhere.
Right. I think at the very minimum, with the new drainage catch basins has a sump that would definitely improve the water quality. But if you want to go a step further, then we're gonna do a little bit more investigation on what type of improvement you guys want. Currently,
Yeah, that's,
I
currently
think
the
it's something we should look into so we can stay within the guidelines of the MS4 and our progression towards it.
So currently, the system does dump to the French River at some point, yes.
yeah, I'm sure it does. I don't know if there's multiple outlets there. I haven't analyzed it. If there's multiple outlets, if they're within easements, if they're on town property, you know, how close they go to the actual river or whether they're farther back.
There's one out that the surveyor we found out is right around the bridge area right here. If you can see my cursor,
Yes,
that's one outlet that's outlet the drainage system from the road, because most of the road it's actually sloping toward the river.
and who owns that property where your cursor is now, Yu Yang, or does anybody?
I would guess
I-
the railroad.
Well, that used to be the old road, the old Main Street before they moved it over and put the bridge. So that right there on the left-hand side still may be town property.
Well, here we go, state of Connecticut.
State of Connecticut.
That's state of Connecticut, yes. So if we want to do something, we have to get some approval from the state if we have to install any type of facility here.
And right in that area, there's also pumping stations for
Yeah, we can see it there, the little pump house.
yeah, for the sewer system.
So that's pretty much where we are at right now. But like I said, we're still going through the preliminary design phase. So any recommendations or suggestions, please just let me know.
Did we, in this one, remember to include a request for street lighting based on the fact that we went and are now trying to feather in street lights on our prior project?
There's not including the scope.
But we're already up to 3.3 million.
That's right.
Well, then never mind.
Does anybody else in the committee, Brian, Joanne, Steve, anybody have any questions for Joe or Yu Yang?
No.
Anybody in the public join us?
No, we're all still
Any-
just us.
Any selectmen or anything?
No, Amy wasn't available today. She had to take her dog to the vet for some emergency care, and Ken is working. I can text him if we needed him for a quorum, but he's on the road, so he can't really look
Okay.
at.
Well, then is everybody all set with this
Please tell
presentation?
me again what your timeline is. I know you said it already, but just so it emphasizes
Sure.
it.
We're looking to submit the last application by the end of February. And then hope to have the bid package ready in winter and then start construction in spring of 2024. But this is very aggressive schedule, just to be honest.
Yeah, well, we've already been through the lot zip process, so
Right, because
I'm just gonna pretend that spring of 2024 was never said, but.
Well, and we have to get the commitment to fund, so we don't want to even jump ahead of ourselves because there's no money right now until we get the commitment to fund letter.
Right.
Righty, no.
Did we ever discuss bike paths?
Not as a part of this.
Probably don't, in that area, don't have the width.
I would think not.
No, probably not.
No, the current width of the road is only 22 feet, so
Yeah.
we're probably gonna be keep existing because we don't want to deal with right away. Well, the town doesn't, the original scope is to make the improvement within the available right of way. So that's what we're proposing right now.
Okay.
In all honesty, even though we classify it as a collector road, this is not a high volume road.
No, it
The
is
safety
not.
issues for riding a bike on Main Street are the condition, not the,
Yeah.
not the traffic.
Okay, does anybody have anything else to add to this Main Street reconstruction item on our agenda? And
Thank you
Yes.
for writing a grant so that I don't have to.
Oh, of course, I'm happy to help.
thank you very much for this presentation. It's always very helpful to be in at the preliminary level and hear what you're thinking and hear what options there are.
Anytime. All right, so I hope everybody enjoyed the nice weather and have a nice weekend. I'm gonna sign off now.
Okay, thank
Bye,
you.
Ian.
Okay, then I guess we can, I see Charlene's in now too. Welcome,
She's
Charlene.
been in. She's been
Oh,
in.
she has been? Oh, sorry. When I didn't see her. Okay, then let's move on to committee business B, additional streetlights on utility poles over the new sidewalk. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Tier, that the Board of Selectmen did vote to add the recommended lights and did reach out to Eversource, and I think it's in, I think they're working through that process.
I can
Yeah.
definitely confirm that they voted to do it because I made a point of checking the minutes the next day on that meeting. As to where they are in the process with Eversource, I cannot say. I didn't happen to ask Amy about that.
Well, I was involved in an email exchange between her and the guy from Eversource clarifying some utility poles down near the Blaine Road end. So I know contact has been made. I don't know if it's moving forward, but we can ask Amy next time to
Yep.
confirm. Okay, moving on to item C, Swanson Park. We have some exciting plans to share that Steve drew up, some really good ideas. I hope.
Yeah, I'm
Are you-
make sure I have the correct. Oops. I think it's this one. That is an email. So no, not that one.
So Steve, for the other committee members, I don't know if you've seen it yet. That's why Tira is going to put it up on the screen. Steve put in a lot of effort making a couple of alternates. One was like a really full scale one that might be more future because of cost. And so then he scaled it back and did this one. And Steve, you are there, so why don't you run us through it?
Well, it was just the basic idea is to work off of what is there. So the path, the existing path could be used for phase one and just do, I forget what the dimensions were, like 40 by 25.
48 by 21.
Yeah, just do a rectangular slab that you could relocate the monuments to. And just have a pad for all the monuments. And in the future, that could be expanded toward the road to accommodate the grade change with maybe some steps and some seating for future memorial services or just sitting and reflecting. You know, maybe that ties into crosswalk, even though we were suggested not to, but you know, I would say that the visibility at that point on the corner is probably better than one side or the other because you can see around both sides of the curve to traffic coming up. In the future, as we got more money or more inclination, we could replace the existing sidewalk, expand the sidewalk along the road, which would be nice. And, you know, maybe even, it's just hypothetical, but maybe a shelter in the future, and all paths at 1 and 20 slopes so that it's kind of universal design. We don't need ramps or railings, and maybe consider some new trees as we can. But it really is based on a very simple rectangular slab that corrects some of the drainage problem now, so it's a little higher, but it's still 3 feet below the road. So there is that grade change that we could make use of in the future. And keep it close enough to the road so that it's still visible from the road as you traverse the curve. You know, if you put it too far back into the park, you lose that visibility. So it's just one thought, you know, there's probably others.
Well, I have to say, I really like it. I think that, I mean, just so everybody understands that for the time being, Steve has phases and stuff on it that just the middle rectangle that the dimensions 48 by 21 on could be something that might fit within the $50,000 budget. I think that was one of the goals
The idea.
that they were working at, is just start somewhere but have it be something that can be expanded upon with a, with future monies could be obtained. So I think that's really a great approach, Steve.
Did we ever get any feedback from groups, VFW and such?
The only general feedback, ahead of the last meeting, I had reminded Amy that we hadn't heard from them, so she reached out to definitely the Legion, and they were sort of generally jazzed by the idea. So, you know, no hostility to the idea there, which is good. I don't know if she ever heard back from the folks at the VFW, and we haven't talked about it since this time last month in any depth. But I don't think that you'll run into much in the way of resistance. I mean, how could you really? It's a dog-eared little unusable space now. This can only improve it. And we're not asking them to pay for it. So, but certainly for their input. We haven't had anything like specific, like, oh, can we put this monument in this location? Or can we add X, Y, or Z? And I wouldn't necessarily expect that. You know, I think that they would be happy to see a good plan that they could respond to. I don't believe they've seen this.
I think we said that in our minutes, when I reread the minutes from last month, that we would actually try to invite them to our March meeting to, you know, get
I
them
think
included.
you're right,
from
Janet.
From the ground level, that, you know, this could be prepared. Maybe we could even, if it was good weather, adjourn to the site and walk around, or we could schedule a future site meeting.
Yeah, yes, and that's exactly why we were talking about March, because we might have slightly, well, of course, we've had unusually mild weather.
It's like April out there. Right?
Yeah, so we could have been there today, but that's another, you know, neither here nor there. Yes, that was a part of the conversation before. So Amy has opted to navigate that, which is fine. Maybe with some help from Renee, because I think Renee has some connections too. But I think we can loosely plan on that March will start here and go there.
Okay. I mean, we could even invite them to our meeting maybe at 9:30 or something and do some of this other business first. I don't know, just an idea.
Sure.
So will you reach out to Renee and Amy, Tira, and ask them to extend an invitation?
Yes, I will follow up.
Great. I mean, I really like this plan, that the interesting thing about the mid-block crosswalk, it does seem to be so much more convenient. And I really wonder if the only reason why it couldn't be considered during our current sidewalk project was that whole massive wall of hedges that really does interfere with the sight line around that corner. If all those huge overgrown yews are taken out, then
You know, that might be the case. And we have the stupid crosswalk issue in front of the convenience store. Maybe I can contact Vitaly and say, hey, we were talking about maybe putting a change order in for that, to delete that one. Maybe it just makes sense based on this to move it up. So I'll ask him. He'll probably tell me that it's too complicated to change it in that way, but maybe not, right?
And is Joe still there?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure you're familiar with where we're talking about it. There's the shrubs are really, really overgrown. And one thing we kicked around was is if Public Works could rip out those shrubs.
I actually just, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I talked about going cutting them down. And I think Amy says, well, don't be too disappointed if we rip them out, because I talked with Josh Butts, our in-house arborist. He wanted to wait a couple more weeks. And so I didn't cut them down. If we cut them now and we got a frost like we did last week, we get a lot of winter kill on them, and then they look terrible during the summer. So he wanted to hold off for a couple of weeks, and they are going to get trimmed down no matter what happens. They are going to get trimmed down, because that line of sight is terrible when you're coming from the Massachusetts way to come into North Riverdale. You cannot see traffic coming around that corner when you want to stop and go up Rawson Ave. But I was just waiting for the opportune time so we didn't destroy the plants.
So which,
And that would be the whole thing with this design too, is to keep in mind the line of sight, which is beautiful. I love it. It's awesome. And just make sure that we don't ruin the line of sight for the traffic on Route 12 and the whole intersection area.
is it cheaper to trim the shrubs versus just eliminate them and dig them out?
No, I mean, they can be eliminated and we can take that and seed it and be done with it. But it may look like a sore thumb. I think the first step should be, we should go and trim them,
Okay.
see what they look like for now. If everybody's kind of happy until this project comes into play. And then when this project comes into play, I'd totally eliminate them. Totally get rid of them.
Well, it may just be worth considering eliminating them anyway, because we've all acknowledged that they are a sightline problem. I mean, why go to the effort to try to preserve them? Either seeding
When
it
is
over,
this going to take place?
we don't know. It's
Oh.
right. So that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's right now it's grant based and it's a specific grant and we may or may not get the grant, but it is a quarterly thing. So I can just keep resubmitting it
going.
until they get sick of us.
I mean,
But also, I mean, we are talking about, it's not something that we're looking for match funding for, and we're not. But that to me seems like the kind of thing that you could approach the veterans group and say, hey, this is a safety issue, but we don't want it to be ugly. Can your volunteers plant annuals instead, right? Cheap and cheerful, no sightline implications. They only live 1 year. And if we get the grant, we can go right ahead. And if not, that is a relatively low cost.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
beautification
And
effort.
besides, you don't really know, and you gotta really look at it. If we took those plants out and just put grass there, it still may look a lot better than it does at this moment.
that's what I think. I think if leaving them as an ongoing maintenance item, like they really probably have to be trimmed annually, and you can't see the commemorative plaques really at all. My vote would be to get rid of them. That's just my opinion. Dig them out.
That is an afternoon's work with a truck and a come along, and the guys doing it will have so much fun, they won't be able to stand it.
No, the backhoe will make it even short time.
So I don't know what I don't know who else needs to be consulted, but what do you guys, what
You
does
guys let
anybody
me
else
know,
think?
And I'll do whatever you wish me to do, and we'll fit it into the schedule.
Well, I
And
think that should probably, go ahead.
No, I think we should pull them out, because I feel like if you make something look a little presentable, then they'll love the bushes and want to keep them, and they'll forget how horrendous and how they just take away that whole line of sight. So, and then people see something happening in the area instead of sprucing something up that we're gonna take apart eventually anyway. So remove them, plant the grass, and maybe let them put some flowers or something in there for the time being, but that's my vote.
Is that a decision we can make?
Well, it is town owned, so the town can make the decision, but through the Board of Selectmen. So again, it would be a recommendation from this committee. And then I certainly would again advise saying, hey, veterans, just so you know, we're going to start monkeying with this park in preparation for maybe doing something later. But emphasizing that it is an actual safety issue, which it is. A bad sightline is a safety issue.
Well, so then perhaps, and what Tira said is if this committee makes a recommendation to the selectmen, then perhaps we should have a motion, and we can kind of just have a vote on who's in favor of removing them versus trimming them. We can give that recommendation to the selectmen, and maybe.
Well, it all depends on my schedule for removing them too. I have quite a plate in front of me for this springtime and summertime. Because we're a year behind on road work, so I cannot guarantee. I could send one guy down there and he could trim them and make them look great, one person. To remove them, it's gonna take 5 guys, a couple of days, plus seed, plus cleanup and everything to make it look good. So I can't guarantee that, okay, yeah, in a month, they're gonna be gone and it's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah.
Can anybody remove them?
No, well, you wouldn't want somebody who wasn't town authorized remove them, right? So there's, it doesn't mean that,
It is our property,
Yeah.
and then in turn, you may run into problems with insurance part, things like that. And that's all gonna have to be a call before you dig situation, that part is all gonna have to get, even for me to remove the shrubs. It's gonna have to be a call before you dig and make sure there's no power lines, sewer lines, water lines, all that stuff has to be checked out ahead of time.
And I don't think it would make sense to do it before meeting with the veterans in March anyhow. I don't think it,
no,
because
Well, I won't get to
It's
it. I
done
can
before-
guarantee I won't get to it before then.
So what if they
Right.
were trimmed to grade?
You're still gonna have to pull them out.
Well, that could be, oh, but you could.
No, we could go there with the chainsaw and cut them right down and leave the stump, right at the edge of the grass
Yeah.
and leave the stump then and go back. But it's a lot easier to dig them out
Oh,
when, I have it's like a multiple chain unit with rings and you wrap it around the bottom of it. It works 80% of the time. And you be able to take the whole root ball right out, shake it up, knock it off. And out of all them trees, we probably get 5 of them that the backhoe would actually have to dig them out because they don't all come out. Those shrubs have been there for a while. I'm sure the root balls are all connected. It's gonna come out in one big caterpillar.
yeah, my husband has done that at my parents' old house. Which, again, a guy with a come along in a truck, it's a ripping good time.
You never know. And it's not like a major project, but we just would have to evaluate it and work at it maybe, and maybe it'll go quite easy. So
well, those are,
I think in the meantime, if you think it's that much of a safety hazard, that I could. No, I think we better wait on the selectmen to actually cut them down ground level before they give the okay on that.
Well, I think Janet recommended the correct path, which is if this committee makes a motion to forward the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, they will discuss it at a meeting, vote on it, and then all the other sort of diplomatic pieces occur.
Yeah,
And in
then-
the process of that, they should have this map in front of them for ideas, the future ideas, so, and that doesn't include the shrubs that are there right now. So that may be even a push to say, okay, yeah, let's get rid of them and plan on something different in the future with something new. Those things are old. The more you cut them, the less they fill out. They're just old.
The existing yew bushes. you mean.
Yes, yeah, they're just old and it's their time.
Sad thing is you can actually limb up a yew bush if you've allowed it to grow to go back to a tree form, and they're really, really nice. Not these, you wouldn't want, but I've seen some beautiful ones at arboretums where they're not, I mean, they are shrubs, but they've been
They've been manicured to do what you want them to do.
Yeah. And they are really nice. But that's neither here nor there. And as always, we can attach to this the species list for the plantings that we have installed here as a part of this sidewalk project, because those are all, native perennial shrubs and trees,
Mhm.
and all of them small. So the sightline implications are smaller.
And even if this gets put off for a couple of years, tiger lilies, daffodils, you can pop some bulbs in the ground there, and those will come up. And then when the flowers are gone, late spring, we mow them down. But then it's something to look at in the springtime.
Yeah,
Tiger
actually,
lilies are later in the season, daffodils earlier in the season, so there'll be something to look at if this gets prolonged.
it's, daffodils are a lot of bang for your buck. You can, get a lot of 100 or 200. And they do, they'll come up in the lawn, they'll go away.
And then they go, you mow them, you forget about them, and then next spring they come back.
Yeah, and
Yep.
and it makes a nice show.
Yeah, and tiger lilies are later on in the season. And even if you don't like them, you just mow them down and they come back anyway.
yeah, there's some good comments and great ideas. We can, just, if we can get some of the veterans here, we can kick those ideas around with them next month and, so thanks for your comments, Joe. It was really helpful to have you at this meeting. So can I have a motion from anybody on the committee regarding this discussion and a possible recommendation to the Board of Selectmen regarding the shrubs?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to cut down or remove the bushes at this point in anticipation of more design work to be done in that area in the future.
Excellent.
will
Can I have
second
a
it.
second?
Joanne
Joanne, you-
did.
great. Any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, I should amend it to include the safety issue. That would be important to.
Between that map and the safety issue, when they bring it up there, I'm sure
Yeah.
they'll go for it.
Okay. Then all in favor of Steve's motion, making the recommendation to the selectmen to remove the shrub for future improvements and safety improvements, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I guess I will, after Tira posts the minutes and I look at some of the wording, I can just draft like a quick letter memo to the selectmen so they can put it on their agenda for one of their upcoming meetings.
So that would be the 21st probably is their next selectmen's meeting. Because they met this week and it's every other.
Okay. All right. Anything else? So do you have enough, is this plan enough to go to the next round of grant funding, Tira, or should it be altered to just show the 21 by 48 design, or?
The color plan should show what we're proposing, and if we're gonna phase, I would like have that in gray, right, for absolute clarity, but also I'll need I'll need some kind of basis for the estimate we're using. Like what are the material, all those things, where am I gonna come up with those estimates?
Well, maybe Steve and I can help with that, and
Yeah.
anybody else.
Well, I'll start by revising this to just show phase one work.
Actually, the only thing on this, I really like this design, but there's only 4 spaces that are created with the parallel spaces. I almost wonder, since the pavement width is so wide there, I remember looking at that before, if we could make, one-way angled spaces, like 60-degree spaces, and be able to get, a half a dozen or 8, I forget how many that wasn't, including one designated for handicap parking, which would probably be the one at the highest elevation. It could be probably a legitimate ADA space, and then they could come up the path.
You would think that would be at the higher elevation and not closer to the existing crosswalk?
Well, at this plan, yeah, no, the higher elevation is closer to the existing
Oh, I
crosswalk.
thought,
The
okay,
most right space.
the rightmost space, okay.
Well, but for phase one, Janet, because that you'd be biting into the park. This is kind of using the road that's there. You probably could get 5. Those are shown at, I think, 25 feet, and that's a little generous for a parallel space. So instead of motorcycles at the left side, you probably could get 5. But if you angle in, which I agree is a good way to do it, but you're actually biting into the park, which would be more expensive too.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just try a sketch up at that area on the parking and see if it can come up with something that doesn't bite into the park that much now that we have an actual survey of the edge of pavement.
Okay,
And then we can just evaluate it and see what people want to do.
yeah,
Okay. Anything else on Swanson Park?
So to be clear, I'm not looking at the March 1st round or whatever that was. Or actually it was an April round. We won't have time between all of the decisions that come up with the veterans, I don't think, for me to put a good application together. So I would be looking at the second quarterly round, the late spring, early summer round.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it takes a while to get something like this envisioned and going and accepted and all that.
Hmm.
Okay, then why don't we move on to item D, 65 Main Street?
Still waiting for my executed contract for the programming grant. Actually, I'll backtrack. So Silver Petrocelli has created some initial drawings, which we did have on hand when Senator Murphy visited earlier or late January, I guess, because we're now into February, which was good. Brian Santos and I had a conversation with them last week as they continue to actually create the 50% construction drawings. Hazmat testing was done. Unsurprisingly, the place is lousy with lead paint. We knew it would be. There was some asbestos found, which did surprise me, actually, since there was never a snowman boiler there, but not none in the property. So they're just working on getting something back to us that will match the amount of funding that we have. Obviously, we've always been in a bind because when we submitted that estimate, it made sense for me to have submitted a lowballed estimate to our locals because there was so much resistance there. So that's what I sent into the Fed. But in that time, obviously, inflationary pressures made everything go cuckoo. I still believe that we will get the first floor and exterior done and usable and the basement safe and repaired. And we're leaving out the second and third floor, which quite frankly, since that's always been up in the air is what we're going to use that for is fine. And that reno money is in our bank account, just waiting to be used. So as soon as I have the construction documents back from Silver Petrocelli, Santos and I will write the RFP for construction, and then that'll get underway. We've got a 2-year performance period on that grant, so we'll be fine. And then the programming grant, still waiting for the executed contract. My program admin emailed me yesterday actually to go, they had me revise the budget a little bit to match some of their guidelines, but still come out to the same amount, which was a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle. That was at the end of December. So he came back to me yesterday and asked me, how did you come to this number? Which I came to because of their last set of inputs. So I had to go back and reverse engineer that. Hopefully I've answered all their questions now and we can get that contract back. And as soon as we do, it's the same thing. The named project partners, which are me and Connecticut RC&D, John Guskowski at Tyche, ECCD, and Teague will sort of brainstorm the format of the public engagement process and then kick that off. And I expect that will be about a year-long process with the public, after which I'll write the project plan and go out for the next grant to actually fund the implementation. Although some of that implementation I think can happen right away, just based on having office share space, but to really get the program going in a robust way with anything curriculum based, I think is going to require another round of funding.
Okay, thanks for that update. Does anybody have any questions on that for Tira or a comment?
Finally.
You know, if the plan for Superior Bakery goes through, which I expect it will, I don't know if they're coming up on planning and zoning this month or next month. The main purpose of the structure of the bakery structure itself is going to be for self-storage, which is not that exciting, but they had the way the building is configured, plus the house up on the hill. I believe they are going to use that as additional space to monetize by office rentals. So yeah, couldn't work out better in terms of having the small business incubator and then, you know, being able to flow into local office space if we work that correctly. So that's, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and EDC's main budget ask this year is going to be for about $10,000 to do a marketing campaign for the revitalization of Main Street, because there is no better time for that either. But because our Board of Finance has been very uncharitable to our Economic Development Commission, that might be something in the budget cycle that support from this committee, business association, you know, to say this is something we've identified as a need, you know, let's not nickel and dime it, let's do it right. That's something that's going to be helpful, I think, coming up.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense, especially if the road's gonna be reconstructed too, like everything is just gonna be, you know, in Swanton Park, just improving the whole physical environment down there, so.
What's the movie? Everything Everywhere All at Once? It's our own little multiverse.
Right. I don't know, are there any committee members who enjoy writing that could maybe write a letter about like support of the Economic Development Commission's initiative to revitalize Main Street that we could all review and sign on to at our next meeting? Writers, volunteers?
Was that you, Joanne?
I said crickets, yes.
Oh, crickets. Yeah, I can't write this one, guys. I'm doing the ask.
All right, well, we know it's important, so we'll have to, maybe we'll work on it next month or something.
I assume that's when the budget meetings are going to start in earnest, is into next month.
Okay,
So
so maybe we can come together with some bullet points, or everybody could email some thoughts. We could have an email chain and cobble together some letter collectively. Okay,
I'd be glad to help out with some of the writing. I just don't want to do it all myself, but I'd be happy to collaborate and try to help out.
Ryan, as long as I am employed in the town of Thompson, no one will ever have to write anything alone.
Nice. I appreciate that.
and I would definitely be involved. I just don't want to be, I have some homework for next month.
Sure.
And just spread it out. So that would be great if you could start something, Ryan.
I guess I just had a question too, and I'm loosely following a lot of the headlines from the Putnam, Cargill Falls incidents there with the lead paint and stuff. So I was just wondering if there was anything that we could do to be on the cautious side as it relates to asbestos or lead paint or EPA. Just wouldn't want to see
Well,
that happen here.
The testing was super thorough. Fussin O'Neill sent a woman out. She arrived at 9 o'clock that morning and left at 3 o'clock that afternoon. So for a 2,000 square foot residential structure, she produced quite a report. So Brian and I have, even before we awarded the contract, as we were talking to what turned out to be the sole bidder, we were very clear that, and this was before the Cargill Falls stuff came up, that we do not want any problems with hazmats here, that wherever we have to trim things in the budget, it is not going to be on the hazmat side. It's going to be lead safe abatement. It's going to be whatever it needs to be. So, and that is going to have implications for our overall budget, but we will make that happen 100%. And the Cargill mill thing only emphasized how important that is. We know. And he and I are the local project managers there. So there's, we're going to be on that like a duck on a June bug.
Excellent. I have a high degree of confidence in you. I just wanted to make sure it was something that was in your mind.
That's a great comment, Ryan. I was kind of wondering that a little bit myself.
It came up in our conversation with the architect last week, for sure.
Anybody have any other questions or comments on 65 Main Street or submitting a letter supporting the Economic Development Commission in their Board of Finance request? Okay, then let's move on to E, ongoing committee business. So this was kind of the new way I organized the agenda this month with some of our older projects that that are still very important to us, but they might be, no activity for various reasons. So I know Riverside Drive lots of sidewalk is just pretty much closed off for no work's being done in the winter. Blaine Road intersection. Tira, perhaps you can update us on that we got the cost estimate.
Yes, ma'am. So NC did send us back our estimate at the end of last week, I think. And we have a total project estimate from them of $112,000, which is a little more than they initially thought, but I think we asked them to add some things in that weren't in Dave Held's original plan, like what was it, the mountable, not mountable curb.
Well,
It's
the
like some
granite
kind of-
curb is one. That was definitely not in the original.
That was, yeah, that's right. That was one, but then there was some other specialty paver or something for the cut across in front of the,
Right, where the
Yeah.
runoff could run off the road in a gap in the curb to get down to the stormwater basins.
so Amy's seen it, I've seen it. Our initial thoughts were that it seemed reasonable, but it wasn't an itemized list, so it was hard to tell. Janet's put her eyes on it. She says it also seems in line. So I think that's what we are expecting to go with at this point.
And I know still on my list of things to do is John Sharp wanted to review how fire trucks could access that area. So now that it's getting a little bit later at night, because I understand he's only available after work, we'll try to get an appointment with him and see if we can address his concerns. And I know Tira, you said you could be available for that meeting, so.
Yep,
I'll
there
try.
shouldn't be any reason I can't either, because we had suggested possibly even on a Saturday.
Okay, I'll try
As
to
long
set
as I'm
something up.
around, I can walk the 200 feet from my house to the Blaine Road Bridge.
Okay. I don't know if Joe is still there, if you had any, I don't know if you have any comments on that
No,
project.
no, I'm good with it. I'd like to see some plans eventually, but because I haven't had any come across my desk, just a curiosity factor.
Well, it's the same ones you would have seen last time, or you haven't seen them at all?
At all.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I will get those to you immediately.
I haven't seen anything of it, so
I will get them to you as soon as we're done with this meeting. I'll send it over to your email.
that's okay.
Yeah, of course, every day I turn on and off that road and I cannot wait until it is no longer a hideous free-for-all.
It is a free-for-all. Just
Yep.
No direction,
None.
none direction, no guidance, and it never, well, there probably was when the mill was operational back in the day, when I was on the school bus looking out the window, but.
I take that left off of Blaine onto Riverside. And if there's somebody coming who wants to take the left onto, sometimes they'll go to my right, sometimes they'll go to my left.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason why this has been on our agenda for 7 years. Okay. Then I guess we could move on to the River Mill, if there's any updates on that remediation or anything else you've heard about the development, Tira.
I'm still in the capital S soon on getting the executed contract back from DECD. We've signed everything on the financial agreement. We have the developer has, and the owner has signed the initial thing, which is the proposed financial agreement. The state takes the proposed financial agreement and budget and creates the contract. And they sign that and send it to us. So that is what we're waiting on.
Okay,
That's it.
good to know you finally got the owner's signature.
Yes. Yeah, and we didn't know how that was going to go, because what we had was a letter from him and his attorney saying he would sign anything required as it came up. And that was the first thing that he had to sign. And we got it back within 2 days of sending it to him. So that was encouraging.
Good. Anybody have anything else on Rivermill? Then I guess we'll move into D 630 Riverside Drive. I mean, the UConn students I know are still hard at work on their design project on that property, but I don't know if there's been any more like real developer people who have had any interest.
I can tell you that 2 offers have been made on that property by the same developer, one super low ball offer and one less low ball offer. And the current owner, after ripping the tax collector a new one for not putting it up on tax sale last year, is now asking his original price again. So it is erratic and weird and unproductive, but because it's inherently tied to what's going on with 929, we can't do, we're still in that, we can't do anything super aggressive to resolve that situation until everything is well underway on Rivermill, or at least we've got some signed documents. Let's just say that there are somewhat aggressive strategies available to us, but they are complex. But they are a potential remedy if this sort of truculence continues, which I expect it will. I just don't even understand the mindset.
Why do we keep waiting and waiting? Like, if there's stuff that we can do and you know it's going to be a lot of work, we could have been doing a lot of work and be done by now. No?
Essentially, Charlene, it's the relationship to the big mill. Like, we just don't want anything that could potentially gum the works up there. So there's a certain level at which I think we'll all say, this project is now insulated from harm, and then we can move more aggressively on the other. I mean, that's really it. It's nobody is more frustrated about that than I am, believe me. And they are legal, they're legal processes too. So there's stuff.
Okay, and we haven't heard anything more about the flood insurance maps or anything, right?
No, I mean, our appeal, as you know, was fundamentally accepted in terms of the 7-foot rise in the flood level there. The separate issue, which was and I always get floodplain and floodway confused, but whichever piece still clips the northern corner of the building on the maps, that was something that the developer and WMA were going to work on separately, but that was less urgent. I think it was a LOMA. I can't remember the acronym for it. It's a specific letter request that they can file on that to amend that map. LOMA, a letter of map amendment.
Okay. All righty. Anybody have any other new committee business? And item 6, any member comments? I'd like to say thanks for showing your face, Ryan.
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here.
I mean, on your computer, it's always nice. I feel like I'm more in a real meeting when I can see people's faces. Sorry, I'm so much in the dark today, but that's just the lighting up here in Maine.
Yeah, I agree. I was supposed to be there in person today, but I had some unexpected stuff to deal with this morning on business. So.
Okay, thanks everybody else for joining in on your phones.
See you next
Any
time.
member comments?
Joanne, were you about to say something?
No, I said, I'll see you next time. I'm good.
Okay, well, then I guess we're on item 7, adjournment.
All right.
Great. Have a
So
great weekend, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Thank
Have a
you.
good weekend.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye.